Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, European leaders have raised the prospect that Northern Ireland could rejoin the EU if voters approve the idea of Irish unity in a border referendum. The Sinn Féin leader, Gerry Adams, welcomed talk of a potential united Ireland as leaders gather for tomorrow's EU summit in Brussels to agree their Brexit negotiating guidelines. But unionists called it hypothetical fantasy politics. Lindsay Hilson is in Belfast. Lindsay.
Krishnan, the British will not be represented at tomorrow's summit in Europe, but we're really going to be affected, and nowhere more so than Northern Ireland. If it's agreed that Northern Ireland can automatically rejoin the European Union after a referendum on joining the South, well, that could change the calculus of people here. In the Good Friday Agreement, it says that there can be a border poll every 7 years. Now, before, that would be a decision, do you want to be British or do you want to be Irish? Now it would be a decision, do you want to be British or do you want to be a member of the European Union? Now, we've just heard from Siobhan about economic uncertainty. If Brexit brings economic uncertainty and economic downturn to Northern Ireland, then people's calculus here may change. And they may decide that what they want to do is think about what's best for them in the pocket. It may be that economics, in the end, even here in Northern Ireland, trumps the old politics of identity. On the Shankill Road, at the heart of loyalism, the idea that Brexit might lead to a referendum on a united Ireland is greeted with horror.
I believe that us here in Northern Ireland, as Protestants, are more loyal to the throne than what they are, say, in mainland Britain. Regards the South, no, definitely not.
Come what may?
No, definitely not.
And Brexit?
I'm not keen.
But what if, identity politics aside, you might be better off joining the South and staying in the EU?
It's you know, families, how are they going to survive? That's all I worry about. It's the kids.
Yeah. So the economics is more important to you than the politics.
Yeah, definitely.
In Brussels, they're preparing for tomorrow's summit, where the other 27 countries will discuss whether Northern Ireland would automatically rejoin the EU if they voted in a referendum for a united Ireland. The old sectarian lines are clearer than ever.
All the evidence is that the union is secure. The reality is that, never mind issues of national identity, which still override most people's considerations when it comes to these matters, that economically being part of the Union of Great Britain and Northern Ireland is far, far more important in terms of jobs, investment, GDP, than being part of the European Union. And most people recognise and understand that.
This is what happened with East Germany. It's a very modest, simple, but very welcome step in the right direction, to recognise that if there is to be a united Ireland, and our endeavour and our hope and our efforts is to bring that about under the terms of the Good Friday Agreement, when that happens, that the entire island would be within the European Union.
On the Falls Road, the Republican stronghold, an old dream is being revived.
It's been a desire for Irish people in the north of Ireland for generations.
Do you think Brexit brings that closer or pushes it further away?
It sort of brings it a bit closer, you know. Well, it puts it on the agenda, really.
Many here feared that leaving the EU would bring back the old hard border between North and South. One reason a majority in Northern Ireland voted against Brexit. But now, some wonder whether Ireland might one day end up as a single country within the European Union, with no border at all.
Well, joining me now from Brussels is the Irish Minister for European Affairs, Dara Murphy. Good evening. Do you think Brexit makes a united Ireland more likely?
Look, we're not getting into that space. This clearly is not at all about any element of triggering a process towards a united Ireland. The procedures for that are clear. They're part of the Good Friday Agreement, which is a legally binding agreement ratified by the people of Ireland and agreed between the United Kingdom and Ireland. What we are simply saying here is that if in the future, explicitly within the negotiating terms, if in the future the people of Northern Ireland choose to be part of Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, to join us as a united Ireland, then, as was the case with East Germany joining West, the process would be that would also, of course, include that they would be part of the European Union.
And as we've just heard, there will be many people in the north of Ireland. Before the Good Friday Agreement,
during the Good Friday Agreement, and after it, we have been we have always remained within the European Union, so that position hasn't changed.
And as we've just heard, there will be many people in Northern Ireland who see even the talking up of this possibility and the placing of it as a top priority by the European Union as provocative.
Well, that's not the case. I mean, the position is Brexit isn't an Irish policy, it's not a European Union policy, it's a United Kingdom policy. And this is the time now when the 27 countries are agreeing our position on very many different areas. And clearly one issue that we wanted explicit clarity, the Taoiseach has been clear on this, is in, to honour the existing provisions of the Good Friday Agreement. It will be a matter in the future for the people of Northern Ireland to decide. The Irish government actually does not believe that this is the time to have a border poll. We don't believe that the conditions for it are right, but nonetheless, this is when the negotiations for the future of the relationship between the European Union and the United Kingdom are commencing, and therefore, clearly, this in the future is something that could happen. The Good Friday Agreement provides for it, and
if there is no deal,
we also wanted explicit wording in that space.
If there is no deal, what will Ireland do?
Say again?
If there is no deal over Brexit, what will Ireland's approach to the border be? Will you do nothing and just wait for the British government to decide whether or not it's going to put in border controls? Or will you have to put in border controls yourself?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by if there's no deal. I mean, if you're suggesting there's no agreement or if the United Kingdom will remain in the European Union. But we have made it clear. Yeah, well, if that's a matter for the United Kingdom, but clearly, it is absolute stated policy now of the European Union position in the guidelines that will be agreed tomorrow that we do not want to see borders or impediments to the movement of people. The unique position that the people of Ireland and indeed the people of the UK are in that we collectively have a common travel area and we've deep and strong relationships between both of our islands, which we want to preserve. So there's very many positive elements within the negotiating position of both the European Union and indeed also by the positions that we've heard from the United Kingdom. We can't speculate as to if the United Kingdom determines in the future that they don't want a deal. I mean, it's clear on both sides that they do at this point want to agree a withdrawal agreement over the next year and a half.
Darren Murphy, thank you very much.
I've been getting away with it all